What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be showing you my internal SOPs that I leverage within my agency, and I'll be showing you how I action those SOPs to create domains really quickly, create campaigns, communicate with clients, do all these different things. But first, let's go ahead and quickly define what an SOP is. And so if you were to search up SOP template, you're going to get a bunch of different options that pop up. And if you click on any of them, it's basically a standard way of doing something within the business. And so it's a checklist of how to do something within the business. And so when we look at a template that we've just received from ClickUp, this is the accounting SOP. And so it's got SOPs for the accounts receivable, payable, tax compliance, all of these different things. And so you can quickly glance at it and look at what it's providing us, right? And so what you will notice is that the accounts receivable has a checklist of what needs to be done, but it's basically the same type of thing, right? The accounts payable also has a checklist of what needs to be done. And so when we go into my ClickUp setup, you will notice that I have it structured in a way where we've got the campaigns, client comms, clients, domains, all of these things going on that are all related to one another. And so in my case, I run a productized email marketing agency. And so all of this stuff is related to one another. And so in this, the accounting SOP, all of this stuff is related to one another. And so if I were to actually have like a finance department or a marketing department or something like that, I would actually be creating a different space instead of putting all of this stuff in the same exact list. And so that is one point, right? How I've structured my documents, right? And then the next thing to point out is the checklist, right? And so the checklist, this is how I used to have all of my SOPs documented, right? I would have it in different apps and different things going on at different times, right? And so it would be like step one, do this, step two, do that, step three, and then we would have links taking us to guides, right? Like this is a guide for us to remember like what we need to be setting up. This is a checklist that also informs us of how we need to be setting things up. And all of this stuff also has like URLs within them. So it was getting the job done, but it was very disorganized. And so how we've set it up now is a lot more organized, and I'll show you how this works. And so the first thing we're going to be doing is creating a domain task. And so most of the time this stuff is automated, but we'll just do it manually for now. So we've got afonto.com over here. It's going to require us to have the client. It's also going to require us to have the website. And so we will put that here. And by the way, this requirement at this specific time, this is a form of an SOP, right? And so if we were to look at this SOP document, for example, it says that check if they're unrecorded received inventories. If so, do it. And so in our particular case, before you create a domain task, make sure that it's assigned to a client and make sure that it's assigned to a specific website. That's the same type of thing, right? But it's more actionable. And by the way, these document SOPs, these are really good options, especially the bigger you get up as a business, because it streamlines a lot of things. But for smaller businesses, less than 10 employees, I personally recommend just having all of the SOPs in actionable formats such as this. And so we've got a domain created over here. Now what do we do? Now we have to take it through all of these different steps until the domain setup is completed. And so previously, what we would have to do is we would have to look at this, right? So we've just purchased a domain. We need to set up the forwarding. We need to do all of this stuff in Google and then do that. But it's still not super clear how we're going to be accomplishing this. Now, this is where I store my SOPs. And so when I have tasks that need to go through a series of steps, they go over here. And there's three things that I want you to notice. The first one is the description. So the description is status prerequisites, right? And then we've got task progression SOPs, and then we've got administrative. Those are the three different types of automations that I have, which are also basically SOPs, right? And so status prerequisites is not going to allow us to progress on to the next step unless we have something previously done, right? And so, for example, we will try to we will look at this over here, and this, we're trying to essentially move from adding DKIM uh, to DKIM authentication started. But because of the way that we've set it up, we're not actually able to move to this step unless the DKIM key is actually inside ClickUp. And so it's going to actually bring us a step back and then give us this comment over here, which is DKIM key has not yet been added to the domain. And so at this point, we notice that this is not working. And so we add the DKIM key, and then this is the next step that happens. And so the next step that happens is DKIM added to ClickUp. Actually, it's already happened, but I'll explain it anyways. So what already happened is this right here. So this automation, the reason we want the DKIM key to be inside ClickUp is so that this automation is triggered. When this automation is triggered, it adds the DMARC records, open tracking, and the DKIM keys into GoDaddy. And so this is an automation assisted SOP, but it's still the same idea of taking us from step 0 all the way up until the end. And so we will go back to DKIM authentication started. When it moves, when it reaches here, and the DKIM key is here, and this is actually email 1, and then the domain platform. Now we get the steps. But if you notice what the steps are, it's like very small. Like it's just domain setup, upload Google users here, upload Microsoft users here. If users are not already added, if users are already added, proceed to the next status. And we've got the links, we've got all this stuff going on. And this is actually the same thing that we were previously doing over here. But instead of it being all jumbled up and you don't know where you are and how you need to get something done, it's actually very organized, and this is all we need to do. And by the way, this is as much information as I personally need. If I had a VA, if I had someone that needed a lot more hand holding, I would elaborate more on the instructions over here. Something else that I would do is I would add a Loom video showcasing how this is done. But like I said, I'm a one-person agency, so I don't need to do that. But we could just add a Loom video over here showing them like, hey, this is how you do it step by step. And then we put additional instructions. But if you're getting the gist, the instructions come up at specific times when they are required, right? So we'll go ahead and delete this Loom video, and then we don't even need to do anything. We'll just cancel it. And so that is how that works. Something else that we do in the clients section, just to show you a little bit more of these SOPs. It's the exact same thing, right? You'll notice task progression, administrative. We don't even have any error handlers at this point, because it looks like, I guess we don't have any error handlers. Anyways, what you will notice is that when a task is created, which would be add comment, always move, and then add comment, a new document was created, client name, add here. Actually, no. 1 second. Okay, I found the one that I was looking for. It is this step over here. So the step goes from domain purchase to add domains to ClickUp. And so if we were to click edit on this one over here, first thing it's doing is it's calling a webhook. As I did mention, automation assisted, all of this, like a lot of the things are just happening without us doing anything. However, the instructions look something like this, right? Domains added, begin domain setup in ClickUp. And so all this is going to do is just take us to the ClickUp list, right? And then if I'm using a reseller, move to this. If I'm setting it up in-house, do this, right? And so it adds a lot of flexibility. But if I actually had all of my SOPs in one document, it would probably be like a 10-page document. And for a large business where you can have people spending a lot of time creating SOPs, doing all of these different things, it makes total sense to have it like this. But for a small business, you're better off just having them be actionable, right? And updating them as you're working on them. So for example, if I were to start working on a client and then I get to a point, it's been a month since I've last done it, and then I look at the instructions and I'm like, whoa, these don't make sense, then I'll update the SOP to make sure that it makes sense. But that's essentially everything. That's all I've got. And yeah, it's just like going from step 0 to all the way to the end, and having automations assist us, and having it in a fashion that simplifies the instructions for the end user. Oh, one last thing I wanted to show. We go to the domains over here. There was actually one that I saw which needed um some some work. It's over here, I think. Anyways, doesn't matter. This is a new feature inside ClickUp, so I used to actually always assign it to myself. Now I'm just gonna do assign triggered by, ensuring that if I were to onboard new people into my agency, they can work on it and it's gonna notify them, and they can just work on the tasks. And so if I'm the one working on the task, it's gonna notify me. If someone else is doing the task, it's gonna notify them. And so this is a really cool feature. It allows you to scale these SOPs to a bunch of other people. Anyways, that's the video. Hope you found it useful, and I wish you're having a wonderful day. Cheers!